Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and coming up in today's newscast, over 420 people have now been diagnosed with the coronavirus in Israel. Israeli police are told to prepare for an inevitable nationwide lockdown. And is coronavirus making you stir crazy? Well, we'll show you how some Israelis are dealing with the crisis. The number of Israelis with the coronavirus has now jumped up to over 420, 236 of which are now being hospitalized. This number does include 11 people who have thankfully recovered from the virus and been released home. As of now, 5 Israelis with the coronavirus are in serious condition and 10 are moderately ill. The rest are only exhibiting light symptoms. This jump comes after Israel has drastically increased its measures to stem the spread of the disease, ordering all Israelis to stay at home and only leave if they need to go to work, buy food or medicine, or get any other essentials. The health ministry has administered over 11,000 tests since the outbreak began, but now says that Israel will be carrying out up to 3,000 tests a day. Over 2,200 people have been tested today alone, and figures compiled today show that most cases continue to be among adults between the ages of 20 to 49, with the largest group of the diagnosed being between 30 to 39. There have only been 71 cases of those aged 60 or older here in Israel. Health Ministry Director General Moshe Bar Siman Tov is warning that hospitals may soon be overrun with cases if Israelis do not adhere to contagion measures, and that doctors won't be able to treat everyone.
אנחנו מבינים שהתרחישים שקורים באיטליה וספרד ומדינות אחרות יכולים לקרות גם פה. אנחנו נראה עלייה בקצב העלייה של המספר החולים. אנחנו כנראה נראה בימים הקרובים מאוד, אולי מחר, 100 חולים חדשים ליום, והמספרים האלה ימשיכו ויעלו בימים הקרובים. ואנחנו יודעים שבסוף יהיו גם אנשים שימותו מהמחלה. זה גם יכול לקרות בימים הקרובים.
Interior Minister Aryeh Deri and Regional Cooperation Minister Tzachi Hanegbi have also now been ordered into quarantine, along with 2 other Knesset members, after they all met a southern mayor who was later confirmed to have coronavirus himself. The Israeli parliament is reportedly now considering testing all Knesset members for the disease in the coming days. Now, the Israeli Public Security Minister Gilad Erdan is instructing the Israeli police to prepare for a complete lockdown of the country, saying that it may be inevitable. Israel's police force is scaling up its efforts to make sure that Israelis abide by the rules of social distancing, and police say that they've begun to enforce 3 new emergency decrees. 1, self-isolation orders. 2, the requirement to register with the health ministry after returning to Israel from abroad. And then finally, 3, stopping public gatherings. Israel's latest regulations have demanded that Israelis not leave their homes unless they're going to buy food or medicine or still have the right to go to work. But these are technically only lawful instructions according to the police, and violating them is not a crime. The health ministry says they're working to make the instructions legally mandatory, and for now, police say they're beginning to launch criminal investigations into offenders of self-quarantine. Violating home quarantine can carry a maximum of up to 6 months in prison and a $1,300 fine. Failing to register with the health ministry after returning from abroad can cost you a fine of up to $780, and refusing to disperse a gathering that has more than 10 people can also cost you that same amount of money. So far, 72 cases have been opened against violators, and right now, police and the health ministry have begun enforcing self-quarantine orders with phone calls and surprise home visits, about 40 a day. Tens of thousands of Israelis are currently in isolation, and police officials say that 95 to 99% of them are obeying orders. Well, for the first time ever, police have filed charges against a person for breaking quarantine and going out for at least 3 times despite being ordered to stay isolated. And police are seeking to have that very person stay behind bars without bail. Now, the latest reports by the Israeli government believe the coronavirus crisis could last for up to a year, and Public Security Minister Gilad Erdan is requesting that police and security chiefs urgently present a detailed plan for implementing a countrywide lockdown in which the police would be placed in charge of enforcement and the IDF Home Front Command would be in charge of the supply of essential items. Now, the Israel Defense Forces are looking to adapt their summer cage orders, which are prepared in the event of a wide-scale earthquake. They'd allow the IDF to help the Israeli medical system by possibly setting up hospitals and taking in patients. The World Health Organization says that it's advisable to wear a protective mask in public if you suspect that you're infected or that someone that you are caring for is. But there are limits as to how much a mask can protect you from getting the disease. So joining us to discuss how we should be protecting ourselves when we go out into public is Dr. Jason Migdal, a microbiome research and development strategist at Synovia Ltd. Hello.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Hello there.
All right, so everyone seems to want a face mask nowadays, but how effective are they at helping us block viruses like the coronavirus? Who should be using them?
Yes, so the current reports on face masks which are available are actually that they can do more harm than good, because the disposable mask should be removed after sort of 48 hours, and fabric masks, which are currently in place, they don't do anything about the bacteria in the environment.
Right.
Synovia's technology is different, actually, because the processes that we use, they mechanically impregnate metallic nanoparticles, which are bactericidal and antimicrobial to a wide spectrum of infectious agents. And the concept behind this is that the mask will actually destroy microorganisms in the environment. So you can wear these masks without a fear or concern that you're going to develop respiratory infection.
But what is the best way to use these face masks? Can they be used for a couple of days in a row, or do you have to clean them? How does that work?
So we would advise, we've actually just donated 120,000 of these masks to the Israeli citizens. If you're able to access one, we advise you to wash it daily. It is washable for indefinitely for the permanent life of the textile. This is what it's been infused with. And the latest reports are showing that in the hospital, this textile reduces infectious agents by significant amounts.
So for those of us who want to get our hands on masks like these, where can we do that?
So we are donating them as part of a humanitarian effort to the hospital facilities and service industries in Israel. So we will receive them back from Jerusalem early next week, and we will notify the collection points if you are a citizen which would benefit from this.
Okay, so the bottom line is there are certain face masks that are actually useful, and we should all be checking out what Synovia Ltd is doing. Thank you so much for joining us.
That's okay, it's a pleasure.
Speaking of security, the Israeli government has unanimously approved a measure allowing security services to digitally monitor Israelis carrying the coronavirus, but not everyone is happy about this new measure. Many of the safeguards and oversights that officials claim are being put into place to address privacy concerns have actually been removed, and now a petition has just been filed against the government with a hearing set for Thursday. New measures to digitally track coronavirus patients harm a basic constitutional right, the right to privacy. That's the message from attorney Shachar Ben Meir, who has filed a petition against the Israeli government. He says that even a dangerous new virus shouldn't create a regime where the government decides everything and there's nobody to monitor or counterbalance it. But for many government officials, sacrificing privacy is a small price to pay for public safety.
עכשיו, בשגרה, זכויות הפרט הן קדושות, גם בחירום, אבל אנחנו נקריב רמה מסוימת של זכויות הפרט כדי לשמור על חיי אדם וכדי למנוע אסון המוני.
The Shin Bet security service would be allowed to use phone data to track the movements made by coronavirus patients to see who they've been interacting with in the days and weeks before and after they've been placed in quarantine. The data would then be relayed to the health ministry, which would send out a message to those who were within 2 meters of the infected person for 10 minutes or more. Many locals seem to be okay with allowing the government to monitor their phones if it means keeping them safe.
I have no problem problem with the government using surveillance equipment to help fight this virus. I'm actually okay with it. If it's going to help the government do its job in stopping this virus, then it's good for me.
They have to do anything they can to solve this situation, to control it, even if it's sometimes not so comfortable for us.
But some, like Dr. Tehila Schwartz-Altschuler at the Israel Democracy Institute, fear that the data will be used in other ways after being collected.
We cannot be sure that the data is going to be deleted. We cannot sure that the data is not going to be crossed with other data sets that the Shin Bet is holding.
Now, as the panic surrounding the coronavirus continues, Israel is still struggling to form its next government coalition. And joining us over the phone with the latest political update is Ziv Ma'or, the chairman of Israel Media Watch. So, Ziv, everyone has been going crazy on social media after Prime Minister Netanyahu thanked Blue and White chairman Benny Gantz for sharing a Facebook post with guidelines on how to deal with the coronavirus. And Gantz wrote with the post, "When it comes to human life, there's no politics. Israel comes first. Take care of yourself and your relatives and follow the guidelines." Now, today, Blue and White and Likud negotiating teams are expected to meet to discuss the establishment of a unity government. But do you think this is a sign of progress, what we're seeing on social media right now?
No, not at all. I do not think so. I think that all in all, this is quite a peculiar situation in which you can see a tension between, on one hand, an attempt on both sides to manage this crisis and to try to be responsible and to act in a manner that on one hand will not think the politician at hand as being irresponsible, and on the other hand trying to benefit as much as possible from the political circumstances. And we are seeing within the Blue-White coalition two approaches to this. One was expressed by the fact that Benny Gantz indeed shared Netanyahu's posts and publications about how Israelis should conduct during the crisis. On the other hand, we are seeing the reactions of both Bogi Ya'alon and Yair Lapid that behave childishly and irresponsibly and attributing the actions that Netanyahu is currently taking and Netanyahu's temporary government is taking the same actions that are being conducted other places in the world and attribute them to the political situation. This is embarrassing. This is irresponsible and childish. So this is the interpretation in general. The question of whether or not we are heading a unity government is a whole different question. So yesterday, as everybody knows, 28 days that are being held available for Benny Gantz to assemble his own coalition have begun. But he will not have any chance to indeed assemble the coalition because there are elements within the 61 mandate that recommended him as a prime minister to the president that will not sit with one another. We know that there are members of the Knesset from within the Blue and White coalition that will not support a coalition that is assembled also from the Arab list within the Knesset, because members of this party have expressed support in terrorism. So
now,
he won't be able to assemble this coalition.
All right. Now, Blue and White Knesset member Avi Nissim-Cohen has just presented Knesset Speaker Yuli Edelstein with a letter signed by 61 MKs. They're demanding that he open the plenum, and the demand comes after Edelstein shut down the Knesset, saying he would only reopen it after giving unity talks a chance. But the letter is basically asking for the Knesset to open so they can vote on an arrangements committee, which will allow it to staff various committees to begin parliamentary work and essentially place the Likud-led right-wing bloc in the opposition and possibly see Edelstein himself replaced. So are certain parties exploiting the coronavirus here for political purposes?
Well, you can look at both actions, both the decision of Edelstein and of the Blue-White coalition and Nissim-Cohen to go both ways. On one hand, Israel definitely needs a proactive and active Knesset to promote the legislation needed in these times in order to achieve, the legislation that is needed to allow the government to facilitate itself for the crisis. So on one hand. On the other hand, it's quite obvious that if they will get what they want, if they will end up having this Knesset, they will use the plenum in order to promote political legislation to undermine the Likud, to undermine the current government from establishing itself politically. And first and foremost, the unconstitutional and undemocratic act that will prevent Netanyahu from assembling a government despite the will of more than a million Israelis. So this is on one hand. On the other hand, you can say the same about Yuli Edelstein. He basically says that he only delays the assembly of the plenum in order to allow for talks for a unity government to happen. This is what he says. On the other hand, the right benefit from it, the fact that there will be no delegations about the bill to overthrow Netanyahu. So you can attribute both kind of behaviors to both sides of this argument. I cannot say which one is right, but I do believe, in my own opinion, that Edelstein should yield and should assemble the plenum, because this is how democracy works. At the end of the day, we have a Knesset that we voted for, and this is how it should work.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Ziv Maor.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Israel's premier airline, El Al, has now put around 5,500 workers on paid leave now that its labor union has just given up opposition to the move.
Travel and tourism to Israel has essentially come to a complete halt because of the coronavirus pandemic. And now El Al Airlines will be reducing its passenger flights to only 4 a day. 2 flights to New York or New Jersey, 1 to Paris, and 1 to London, plus 1 weekly flight each to Toronto and Johannesburg. The finance ministry has ordered El Al to cut yearly costs by $200 million through layoffs and salary reductions in order to be able to receive a loan. El Al carries more than just passengers, though. It's also responsible for bringing in around 35% of all of Israel's aerial imports and exports. Around 2/3 of Israel's exports are carried by plane, and around 1/3 of all imports. Despite cuts, the Israeli Foreign Ministry is on a mission to return all young Israelis outside of the country back home. El Al is sending a plane to Peru on Thursday to return young post-army Israelis who are stranded there now that the country's borders are closed because of the coronavirus. It's estimated that around 1,000 Israelis are still in the South American country right now. The young people will be brought to Israel free of charge. The Foreign Ministry has already returned 380 Israeli students from Moldova on 2 Israel flights and is warning that the island of Luzon in the Philippines will close its borders on March 19th, where many Israeli tourists often travel.
Well, more and more Israelis are finding themselves without work as regulations become stricter surrounding the coronavirus, and some are eligible for government support, but others find themselves in a limbo, particularly foreign workers in the state of Israel. Well, joining us to discuss the implications is ILTV contributor and consumer behavior expert Dr. Vili Abraham. So the Israeli Employment Service announced today that at the beginning of March, there were about 180,000 new unemployed people registered on their site. And now we see a lot of foreign workers who are saying, what's going to happen to us here? What is going to happen?
Well, right now it's not really clear what is going to happen. We have requested the reaction of the Immigration and Population Authority, and they did send us a response, but it's quite vague. What is clear is that foreign workers who have left the country will not be able to return. And in case of elderly people who are in need of nursing care, we'll be able to hire those who are in the country and do not have somebody that they're taking care of at the moment. But it's not really clear what is their status and whether they're going to get unemployment benefits.
What is your take on this? I mean, many of these people are taking care of our elderly, the people who are at highest risk here. So should the Israeli government be providing some type of help to them?
Yes, I think so, because they're here and they're helping our most vulnerable populations in their most basic needs, to fulfill the basic needs. And right now there are troubles because sometimes these people cannot be in the same place where these elderly people are because it's a very vulnerable population. They're risking their lives. And I think that they should be getting some social benefits, yes.
Now, I kind of want to switch topics and speak about real estate a little bit right now. I can only imagine that soon enough people are going to, who are out of work are going to be worried about how they're going to be paying their bills, their rent specifically. How is the real estate market in Israel going to be impacted by the coronavirus crisis?
Okay, so according to the government directives, every industry is to dwindle its workforce by 70%. However, not the construction industry, because it's considered to be an essential industry. And I think it's a right decision because we are in need of bridging the gap between supply and demand. We have a severe shortage of apartments. And if we were to hold construction now for a few months, then it would mean that the prices of apartments would increase. They would skyrocket after we get back to work.
So I guess I know there are some people out there who are saying, are we going to see, real estate prices have been so high. Are we going to finally see a bit of a drop here? But what you seem to be saying indicates the opposite.
Well, no, because the government is allowing the construction industry to work in full force. No, it's trying to prevent prices from increasing. As far as rental prices are concerned, there might be a drop. A lot of families are in deep financial crisis, if not now, then in the very immediate future, because a lot of couples have lost their jobs.
Right.
Either they were fired or they were forced to go on leave with no payment. So a lot of couples are going to be in a lot of financial crisis right now.
Right, and we're seeing Airbnb, of course, finding themselves in a bit of a crisis. So more apartments in major cities like Tel Aviv are, coming up onto the market, and they're offering lower prices than ever before. So that's one, I guess, positive for locals. But Vili, thank you so much for joining us with this update.
It was a pleasure.
So as more and more people find themselves locked in their homes, there are certainly some quirky stories coming out, and ILTV's Nittany Manson is here to hopefully make us smile about something, all right? So tell us, what is up? What is up?
All right, so a few funny things that have been going on with all the craziness everywhere. Big Brother, the TV show.
Yes.
So the people in Israel who are on the TV show Big Brother have been in quarantine, basically, before the quarantine even started.
Right, because that's what this reality show is, basically locking a bunch of people in a house.
Exactly. They lock them in a house. They can't have any contact with the outside world. They had no idea Corona was happening. They have just been released from the house, and they're like, woohoo, we can go out and drink, and now they can't do anything. One quarantine to another, they have to go be locked up again.
I can't even imagine how mind-boggling it is to come out of an experience like this and hear that there's this world pandemic taking place.
Right? It's like waking up to a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. All right. What is up next?
A few more. So there's these videos that have been going viral on TikTok and Instagram. They're videos that are just showing songs that you can listen to while you wash your hands to remind you to wash your hands long enough.
Right, because you have to wash for at least 20 seconds,
At least 20 seconds, yeah. So they're showing you, this is Staying Alive. So she's just singing her song and washing her hands.
That's a very appropriate song. And she's really got that washing down. And
she has it down. She's showing us how to do it. And there's some songs for the viewers at home. If you don't know how long to wash your hands, there's songs Jolene by Dolly Parton, Africa by Toto, Landslide, Fleetwood Mac, and of course, Staying Alive by the Bee Gees.
Okay, all right, this is very good to, this
wash
is
your
very
hands
useful.
And sing your song.
Okay, so what is up next? We're running out of time, so that's the last thing.
So there's this one guy who is basically breaking his quarantine in a safe way. He has taken his drone and he's doing this live video where he's going around Israel, around Tel Aviv mostly right now. And so you see him, he's standing there, he's with his drone, and it's a live feed. So you can go on there and tell him, I'm in quarantine, come visit me. And he'll take the drone, you see, and he'll go
and visit you.
He'll go visit you. There's people standing outside on their balcony.
Social interaction in the modern day world. All right, that's genius. Thank you so much for joining us, Nittany. You really did make us smile. All right, on that note, let's take a look at the weather forecast. Well, the weather isn't looking too great today, so hopefully that will make you feel better if you're stuck at home. Today we're seeing strong winds and partly cloudy skies with a high of 63 degrees Fahrenheit or 17 Celsius. And tomorrow is supposed to be around the same temperature with rain in the morning and wind throughout the day. All right, now before we go, let's take a look at what's going viral in Israel. Can't touch this. I couldn't understand that, but that is the Israeli English version of can't touch this. And this is, I guess, what ends up happening when you are stuck at home in quarantine for way too long with your children. Oh, I'm all into that. I love it. He didn't even touch the screen. Okay. All right, that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.84 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. I'm Natasha Kirchak, and thanks for watching.